My name is Regenvanu, and I'm the Minister of Climate Change Adaptation for the Republic of Vanuatu, which is a small group of islands in the Southwest Pacific Ocean. Vanuatu is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to the effects of climate change. We've been ranked by the United Nations University as the most at-risk country from natural disasters in the world. So we are on the Pacific Ring of Fire, but also as a low-lying small island developing state. We have all the impacts of high intensity natural hazards like tropical cyclones of increasing frequency and increasing strength. And so all of these impacts of climate change mean that education is often severely affected. I'll give an example. After a cyclone, a lot of the schools are destroyed. Children cannot go to school anymore. And so their school is severely disrupted for months at a time. And we have kids going to school under tarpaulins for months and months at a time while the school is being rebuilt, or the government is trying to access funding to rebuild the school. We also have schools that have to be relocated. We have relocated a number of schools now from the coast inland to higher areas because they're being undermined by sea level rise. Also, sea level rise, of course, affects the access to water for schools. So that's another issue that has to be taken into account. We have the effects of climate change also increase heat, causing classrooms to be very uncomfortable, especially in the peak summer period, which also inhibits learning. And so there's a lot of effects, but the main one I would say would be disrupted school, long periods of people outside of school, students out of school, no longer able to attend classes. When there's heavy rainfall events, not able to access school. So there's there's a big demand for the government to have to install resilient infrastructure. So resilient school buildings, that means schools built to resist cyclones, which is much more costly than what we're used to spending to build schools. So we have to access a lot of extra money to build proper schools that can withstand cyclone events, heavy rainfall events, earthquakes, the like. Also, of course, access roads to the school, to the community. Often roads are washed out, kids can't access, so we need to build much more resilient roads. They cost 30 times the amount we've been spending previously. So this is where climate finance becomes a critical issue, which is why the Small Island Developing States has been advocating very strongly for climate finance to be increased to the most vulnerable countries like Vanuatu, so we can build that social public infrastructure, especially in the education sector, as well as health, and also infrastructure like roads. Education has a role in combating climate change, and the Ministry of Climate Change is working with the Ministry of Education to try and mainstream climate resilient knowledge, activities, and understanding into the school curriculum. This is taking longer than we have expected, but it is happening. And the idea is to build the knowledge of students and the capacity of the students to respond when there is a natural disaster coming, a tropical cyclone approaching, for example, to respond to the challenges of accessing food and water and shelter from the effects of slow onset climate change, changes in vegetation patterns, sea level rise, and so on. Also, trying to teach schools themselves to become resilient centers in the community. And a lot of schools were trying to turn into evacuation centers also, so that when we build a school to a cyclone resistant standard, it can become a place where the community shelters during a cyclone, and the school becomes equipped to deal with this kind of additional function that they have. What the national government is also doing is trying to collaborate with structure of schools, but also resilience into the way education is delivered in general. Because as the climate changes and as the impacts of climate change affect the way schooling can be conducted in our country, we have to find other ways to ensure that learning is imparted to students, that education continues despite the effects of climate change, maybe disrupting classroom activities, destroying schools. We have to find a way to continue to deliver learning in these circumstances. And we're doing that with help of our partners throughout not only the country, but also internationally.